In the quiet town of Millbridge, nestled between rolling hills and sprawling farmlands, the Matthews family had long been regarded as pillars of the community. The family owned an ancestral estate, a large plot of farmland, and a reputation of being model citizens. Behind the facade of their idyllic life, however, a horrifying secret was festering, one that would leave a permanent scar on their family and the town. Rebecca Matthews, a 28-year-old teacher at the local elementary school, had married David Matthews 5 years earlier. Their union had been a fairy tale in the eyes of many. David, the only son of Edward Matthews, a wealthy and influential man in town, was handsome, charming, and respectful. Rebecca, a bright and beautiful woman, had captivated David since the day they met. But their marriage, while appearing perfect on the outside, was struggling under the surface. David was infertile. This fact, known only to the couple, weighed heavily on their relationship. Rebecca longed for a child, and David was tormented by the societal expectations of being the heir to the Matthews family legacy. His father, Edward, a domineering and traditional man, wanted nothing more than to have grandchildren to carry on the family name. As the years passed without any children, Edward's impatience turned into obsession. David had always been under the thumb of his father. Edward had raised him with an iron fist, teaching him that the Matthews family was superior to others and that its legacy was paramount. Edward's disappointment in David's inability to provide heirs became palpable in every interaction. He openly criticized his son, belittling him in private, while maintaining the appearance of a loving and proud father in public. His disappointment, however, would soon give way to a plan that would forever shatter the family. One evening, during a dinner that started as mundane as any other, Edward asked to speak with David privately. In the darkened study, lined with old books and portraits of the Matthews patriarchs, Edward presented his son with an unthinkable proposition. "You're unable to give Rebecca children." "We both know that," Edward said, his voice cold and calculating. "But there's still a way to preserve our family line." David stared at his father, confused. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Edward leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "I'll do it. I'll father a child with Rebecca." David's stomach churned. He stepped back, horrified. "What? No, absolutely not. Are you insane?" Edward's expression didn't change. "This is the only way. We can't let the family name die because of your condition. She's a good woman, David. She'll understand her duty." David stormed out of the room, disgusted and overwhelmed, but his father's words haunted him. He knew Edward wouldn't let the issue drop. Over the next few weeks, the pressure mounted. Edward manipulated David with relentless psychological warfare, making him feel worthless and guilty for failing the family. The final straw came when Edward threatened to disinherit David and cut him off financially if he didn't agree. Desperate and broken, David gave in to his father's demand, though the shame and self-loathing consumed him. He couldn't bring himself to tell Rebecca the full extent of the arrangement. He only mentioned that his father had offered a solution for their childlessness, but he left out the horrific details. Rebecca, heartbroken by her husband's infertility but still deeply in love with him, hesitantly agreed to what she thought was an artificial arrangement, IVF, perhaps, or surrogacy. She had no idea what was truly in store for her. One fateful night, Edward appeared at their home while David was conveniently away on business. Rebecca had been told by her husband that his father wanted to discuss their plans for a family, so she let Edward in, unaware of the monstrous intentions lurking beneath his calm exterior. Edward, using his son's approval as leverage, began to pressure Rebecca into something she couldn't have possibly anticipated. He manipulated her, twisting her love for David and her desire for a child into something vile. "David knows this is the only way," Edward told her, his voice smooth but sinister. He agreed. "You're part of this family now, and you know what's expected. You'll be doing this for David, for the Matthews legacy." Rebecca was horrified. She fought back, trying to resist, but Edward's overpowering presence and the weight of his authority crushed her spirit. The fear of losing David, the shame she felt at her own helplessness, and the overwhelming pressure from the patriarch of the family she had married into forced her into submission. That night, under threat and coercion, Rebecca was violated by her father-in-law. It was a sickening betrayal, one that she couldn't bring herself to speak of for weeks. Rebecca's demeanor changed after that night. She became withdrawn, quiet, and numb. David, aware of what had happened but unable to face the enormity of the crime he had allowed, distanced himself from her emotionally. The guilt tore at him, but he was too cowardly to confront his father or confess his own complicity in Rebecca's suffering. Weeks turned into months, and Rebecca discovered she was pregnant. But instead of the joy she had once imagined, the pregnancy filled her with dread and revulsion. This child wasn't born out of love, it was a product of violence and betrayal. Rebecca couldn't bear it any longer. One night, while David was asleep, she packed a small bag, took the little money she had, and fled. She drove to her sister's home in the next town, where she finally broke down and revealed the horrifying truth. Her sister, horrified and enraged, insisted they go to the police immediately. The case that followed was explosive. The Matthews family, once revered, became the focus of a true crime scandal that rocked the community. Edward was arrested and charged with sexual assault, coercion, and a host of other crimes. David, too, was implicated for his role in allowing the crime to happen. In court, Rebecca's testimony was harrowing. She recounted the psychological manipulation, the threats, and the violation she had endured at the hands of the man who should have been a protector. The trial revealed the Matthews family's dark legacy of control and abuse, and the town's perception of them was shattered forever. Edward was sentenced to life in prison, and David, though not charged criminally, was ostracized by the community. Rebecca, now free from her tormentors, chose to raise her child on her own terms, away from the toxic legacy of the Matthews family. It would be a long road to recovery, but she was determined to rebuild her life, stronger and more resilient than ever. What had once seemed like a picture-perfect marriage and a powerful family legacy had been torn apart by greed, control, and unspeakable betrayal. In the end, Rebecca survived, not because of the Matthews name, but despite it. And though justice was served, the scars of her experience would remain with her forever, a reminder of the dark side of power and the strength it took to escape it.